Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the 1934 to 1936 Diamond Star Stories. This is chapter number 17 for me, and this is card number 56, Gus Suhr. This is a card I acquired in November of 2022 at a local card show and later submitted for grading during the National last year, and it came back in SGC 2.5. So let's look at this card a little bit more in depth. This is the actual copy right here. This is actually from SGC, the image you're seeing before you. So this card is pretty popular for a couple of reasons. Gus Suhr obviously played for Pittsburgh Pirates for about 10 seasons before he finished his career, at least MLB career, with the Phillies, which we'll talk about in a minute. But a lot of people like this because of the image and how it kind of isn't sort of a natural picture, because he's actually facing right field, as you can see, probably more like right center when he's receiving this ball in this picture here. But obviously this was done for the effect. It was based off of a photograph that then they added in the runner in the background coming down the baseline. So you can see that's why it looks a little unusual, as do many of the images in the set itself, as they were done more for presentation purposes. This image is one of the quote-unquote action shots that they have in the set. So this is like a runner in the background, but it's not based on any particular image. It was one that was just kind of created for the card itself. We'll go over to the back of the card now so you can see the back image. Let me move that one here. All right, so now you got the back image. In this one, it kind of talks about he being a pretty proficient fielder. In fact, he had a .922 fielding percentage for his entire career, which is extraordinarily high for first baseman, especially of this era. So it talks about turning the double play on here, and this is actually a 1935 image of the card. You can see on the stat line bottom below, it talks about him hitting .288 during the 1934 season. So let's go back to the image here, and I'll show you a few more images of Gus as well. But let me go back to the card itself, the front of the card. And we'll talk a little bit about him in general. So, all right, Gus, his first name is August, so he goes by Gus by short. Played first base for a period of 1930 to 1940, most of it with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was a left-handed hitter that threw right-handed. He was born in San Francisco and actually was a member of the Pacific Coast League. He and his three brothers all played semi-professional baseball, with he advancing the farthest, going on to a Major League Baseball career. He finished a career WAR of 22.3. He had over 1,400 hits, 84 home runs, batted .279 for his career, and had 818 career RBIs. So in addition to being known for his fielding, he actually had a consecutive game streak of 822 games. In fact, led the National League in games played 3 times, which he had to end prematurely because he had to attend a funeral of his mother. That was the longest streak for a National League player and stood until it was broken by Stan Musial and later on by the current holder for National League consecutive game streak played, Steve Garvey. He was a one-time All-Star in 1936. That was probably his best season when he hit .312 and drove in 118 RBIs. That was one of 3 times he hit over 800 RBIs in a season, including his rookie season as well. And one of 2 times he bat over 300 in his career. During his time, the Pittsburgh Pirates weren't able to advance to the World Series, but they were in pennant contention a few times during his time with the team. During his career, probably his most noted season actually came when he was a member of the Pacific Coast League right before he was signed by the Pittsburgh Pirates, when he batted .381 during that season in 1929, had 51 home runs and 177 RBIs. Now, during this time, the Pacific Coast League was known for playing a longer season because where they were at geographically in the United States, they just had weather that was a little bit more conducive playing into like the months of November. So that's why some of his numbers are just so large, but obviously he did excessively well during that season. He was also sued by a fan during that season because a fan was struck by a foul ball that he hit during that season. It was later dismissed in the court, but had to actually go up through the Supreme Court of California, which was later dismissed, saying that he was not accountable for that. And that was part of the risk of going to a Major League Baseball game, was getting struck by a foul ball, potentially where you were sitting. After his career, Major League career, he actually went on to play in the Pacific Coast League for a few more years. During the shortages of the 1940s due to World War II, he was able to continue his career in the Pacific Coast League through the end of World War II. One of note, during that time, he was actually playing an exhibition game on February 8th in 1942 at Folsom Prison, along with other Major League Baseball or their semi-pro professional baseball players and Pacific Coast League baseball players. But it was a game that was an exhibition for the inmates at the prison at that time. Through 2 innings, they were up by quite a bit, but the game had to be suspended when 2 inmates had escaped the prison. They later were apprehended and brought back to custody. But I thought that was kind of an interesting point of his career where, obviously he was participating in a game where there actually was an actual jailbreak. So I thought that was pretty interesting. During his time, he played for the Pacific Coast League and then later was a player coach during several lower minor league affiliates before he kind of like hung him up for good in the late 40s, early 50s, and opened up a liquor store where he later, he and his family later resided and moved to Arizona. Unfortunately, his first wife died unexpectedly at age 39. They had 2 children. He later remarried, but his 2 children, 1 son, 1 daughter. His son actually went on to have a minor league baseball career, but never advanced to the major leagues. And Gus Suhr went on to live a very lengthy life, living into the ripe old age of 98 years old, and died in 2004, and actually went back to Pittsburgh to be honored with some other former players in 2002 on the field, and was there kind of signing autographs and stuff. So, all right, well, I'm going to show you some other cards during his career, and maybe also I can show you a photograph. Let's show a playing day photograph here. Let's see, share this tab instead. That's what I want to do. All right, so this photograph was taken during his playing career, and actually he is the only non-Hall of Famer pictured in this one. So we have Archie Vaughn starting there to his right, and to his left is Pie Traynor, and then you can see we have Honest Wagner on there too. This was taken at some point during his playing career in the 1930s, date unknown. And this next picture I'm going to show you is actually towards the end of his life, and there was an article done about him being a former player and having a picture of him in his home. You can see there's a lot of pictures of him during his playing days behind him. This one was taken, I believe, in 2003, so he would have been 97 at this point. I can see this image looks very much like the card, his image of him on the baseball card itself. So it's amazing how he aged. He just looks so spry at this age and looks much younger than he actually was. Probably looks, in my opinion, probably more in his late 80s, but he was in his late 90s at this point. All right, so I'll show you a few other things in cardboard, his career in cardboard. Let's start with one of the earlier things I saw was actually a Cracker Jack pen. So this is actually during his rookie season. Didn't have Rookie of the Year at that point, but he might have been a good candidate for that. As I mentioned, he drove in over 100 during his rookie season and was coming off that stellar Pacific Coast League season where he hit a 381. So he was coming in with a lot of hype. He was almost property of the Detroit Tigers. In fact, the scout that was trying to sign him was trying to get permission to sign him and wasn't, because they had someone in mind to take over first base or be a scout or a player to play first base for them, potentially after, I don't know, Hank Greenberg was no longer a viable option. But he obviously was a viable option for many years. So he didn't really have a place within that organization, and was later signed by Pittsburgh shortly thereafter when Detroit kind of fell out of the running. So there's a few other cards of his. He was actually in the 33 Gaudy set. He was not in the 34 Gaudy set, but he was also in the 35 Gaudy set, which they use kind of the same image on those 4-in-1s that you see here. This is obviously a pretty high grade, this one. I'm just pulling these off of eBay of current ones that are for sale. Kind of a bland image. I would definitely, if you were trying to find one card of Gus during this era, you probably would go with the Diamond Star, hands down. He also had an image in the Batter Up series. This is one's actually unpunched here. Pretty mid-grade here, probably mid to high grade on this one. There's a little staining on it, but it was completely unpunched. And you see he's playing like first base here, kind of making a throw after receiving it from an infielder or a pitcher during a pitch out. Who knows? All right, so one other card I wanted to share with you was later on in his career. I believe it is this one. So let me pull this one up, share this tab instead. This was the last one I saw during his playing days. This was be when he's actually a member of the Philadelphia Phillies, I believe. I think they were able to do that during his 1940 play ball card. And this one's actually autographed, which is pretty cool. As you can see, that's here. You can see he was kind of doing an image of jumping, trying to field a ball. And I believe this one might have been taken looking at the background here. It's very possible it was maybe in Pittsburgh, because I think that might be Forbes Field, but it might also be Wrigley Field. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard because it's obviously out of focus, because they're trying to bring your image to, or your focus to the image that you see here before of him trying to jump to field a ball. As so often you saw during cards during the 1930s and 40s, they were trying to stage an action shot. But that is it. That is Gus. Let me go back to his original card here, share it with you one more time. Card number 56 in the Diamond Star set. This is probably his most popular image, as I kind of mentioned. Had a pretty interesting career. Post-career was a little bit more quiet, as he kind of ran a liquor store for many years with his family. But nevertheless, what an interesting story. This guy lived a great life going into his 90s. And that is it for this month. So we'll be back next month with another edition of Diamond Star Stories. I hope you guys enjoyed this one.